What's up everybody? This is going to be an educational tutorial breakdown BTS making of video. Would we repeat our faults once more? Would we not know how to change? First up, how did I get this project in the first place? Being a full-time YouTuber, I always have my camera with me, so whenever I travel, I'm creating my own personal travel films for free on my dime just because I want to. And eventually, if you make enough of those, you get on the radar of people who would pay for this kind of video. EF College Break is a company that takes people on trips, and they had an upcoming Panama trip that they were planning. They needed promotional material, so they hired me to go along, a two-person team, to just collect video and photo and test out all of the activities that they had planned and pretty much make marketing material for the trip. The main aspect of it came down to this 2-minute video, which was absolutely my making. You know, they told me, make a travel film, and this is where we're going, this is what we hope to have in it, but it's all up to you. And that creative freedom was amazing. I love it. It's exactly what you want as a YouTuber, to just make what you do. You know, they have seen my channel, they'd seen my Instagram, so they knew what type of video and photos I might capture if I were there. So they sent me on the trip, all expense paid. They had the two people there, a designer and a field producer, to kind of help and take me along and keep me on schedule. But I pretty much was there for 4 or 5 days, I can't remember, and I made this 2-minute travel film. And obviously, if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. I have a link in the description for you. I shot this travel film on 3 cameras, Sony a7S Mark II, a Mavic DJI, technically that's a camera, that's a drone, and also a GoPro for water fun. These are the 3 lenses that I recommend, and I brought all of these, but I actually shot most of this film handheld with this SLR Magic 50 cinema lens, and it's an f1.1, which is crazy wide. And I learned that if you do shoot wide open, you're going to get a lot of vignetting. You can really see that in this clip right here. This was like when I first arrived, I was still testing out this lens, and the amount of vignetting around and just the lack of sharpness is a little extreme, especially when you're shooting 1.1 wide open. So I don't recommend that. And I was absolutely testing this lens mainly because it also had an ND filter that you could get in a kit with it. So declicked aperture, really smooth focus, a small compact lens body, but then also this ND allowed me to shoot pretty shallow depth of field in bright sun exteriors, because like sunglasses, you can just darken it down, which means that you could shoot at like 1/50th and just maintain that, set the aperture to whatever you wanted, even like at f2.8, 2, and then just close down to set your exposure. But like I mentioned, the vignetting is pretty intense, and you have to be used to exposing this way rather than just rocking the shutter or using auto ISO and all of that. So this does take a little bit more time and effort. I don't know if I'm gonna keep with it. It's just a little too extreme for my taste. And I really like the auto exposure, which I'm using with the 55 Zeiss on the a7S Mark II right now to film this. And it's keeping auto exposure on my face. So I kind of like that. I was also using this Sennheiser MKE 44-0 shotgun. And this was the first time that I was testing that. And I made the mistake of using it on not the highest volume setting on the mic. I had that down, and then I had to turn the volume up, the recording level, a little higher than usual on the camera. And that resulted in some really bad quality sound. It just gave a lot of noise compared to what I'm used to with the Rode VideoMic Pro. So I actually did, after shooting all of this, realize that I could change the settings to increase the recording volume on the mic and then decrease it so that the preamps are working a little less on the camera. So it helped, but it was still annoying. I think the DJI Mavic was fantastic to use for this trip with its small size, very easy. Having the controller versus like using a phone Wi-Fi makes me feel 100% confident flying anywhere. I was very happy with it. And I had one of these ND filters for on front of the lens on the camera for the drone, and that helped because I'd say 99% of the shots I was doing with the drone were during the day, bright sunlight. I needed to stop down so that I wasn't over cranking on the shutter an extreme amount. And of course, this soft case is awesome. So as far as how I planned, I knew that I wanted to consolidate all of my footage into one video. I knew that I wanted to keep it simple. Maybe in the future, I would try to focus on some kind of character, some storyline. Following the person on their journey through Panama would make more sense. But because I was just there with my team, I involved them a little bit. Like, I would shoot them every so often. But I didn't want to make the entire film about them. So I just made it more about the experience of being there. More visual, more music-based than actual dialogue and story. I'll admit, that's what I would do differently. I would actually have some kind of story with my travel film. And I throw myself in there a tiny bit. You do see the pair of them every so often, but they're definitely not the focus of the video. I didn't know which song I was going to use for the travel film while I was shooting, but I had the idea that I would use something like 2 to 3 minutes long. I think I wanted to use a lyrical video to help, and I wanted it to be very upbeat. I wanted pace changes, and I went to Artlist for that. So this Hard to Change song is what I picked. I subscribe to Artlist. You pay a yearly amount and you can download any amount of songs that you can find on there. So you're licensing this. It's 100% legit, paying for it. It's the good way to do music for the internet, not stealing. I almost picked this one though. And it's more of an instrumental, but I decided to go with the lyrical. Like, I could have gone more poppy and fun, which I did, or I could have done more cinematic and instrumental and building. So one thing you'll notice is that as soon as I put the song down in the timeline, I actually just listened to it all the way through and marked pace changes. And these were important transitions for the video. And those are really important. You want to put your best footage there. You want to completely change the pace, the content of the video. It really helps to keep the viewer engaged instead of just having and then, and then, and then, and then. You want this, but this happens, but then this happens. And you'll also notice that this is not the beginning of the song. I cut off about 20 seconds of the beginning and just went right into it. I just found a moment that worked and then did a little crossfade. And then you'll also notice that this is not the end of the song. So it keeps going, but I cut it short a little bit just because it kind of drones quieter and quieter towards the end there. You'll also notice little bits of audio everywhere. This is something that I would love to do more in the future, and that's to record really good audio and pay attention to the sound that is going on in front of the camera, and even go out of my way to record sounds to apply to videos where it wasn't recorded like that. I guess you'd call it Foley, but I would be recording it. Yeah, I guess you could call it Foley. A lot of these little sound bites have crossfades on either side of them, you'll notice, because I want them to be soft and I don't want them to be abrasive. I want them to come in and out naturally. I want you to know that the sound is there, but you kind of don't notice it. There's like a little bit of a boat sound there. I only have a couple titles, and I knew that I wanted Panama. I think I'm just using Atheleth. Yeah, Atheleth is like a font that I like. I widened it, tracking, I guess you'd call that. Yeah, tracking. And I think it works for it. And then I also wanted to put a little film by Kraig in. I think it's fun to do. Why not? So to edit this film, I took all of the footage that I captured, found good in and out points, so like the best parts of all of that footage, and then just laid it in chronological order. Once I had that, it was like probably 40, 50 minutes worth of footage. And I had to just go through different waves, and I just kind of plucked out my favorite moments to the top and then just pushed those all to the left. Because I wanted to really sell the beginning of the film. You want to do that with any film, honestly. Got to hook them within the first 10, 15 seconds, like quick. You got to be quick with it. So I took some of my favorites, and then I also thought about the pace changes in the song, and then I started to group little sections and groups of clips that made sense for that moment in the song. So I knew there was like it starts off. Like I knew that moment, the pace kind of, the drums happen, and I wanted there to be like the best drone shot there. And then it just gets quicker for the chorus. Building. So that was the hit. I wanted that to be the best shot. I liked the time lapse here of the morning sun coming out, and then just a pop of color right to that moment. Every time this chorus hits, it's very quick, very energetic. I love drone shots, a lot of my best stuff. You'll also notice these little movements. So this is a trend right now, but it's really fun to do. This was really the first time that I was testing this out. And if we select Command R to take a look at these clips, you'll see that there are ramps. So what you do is you go to a clip, and then you can blade the speed and make little sections of a clip, and then you can pinch and pull each of those sections however you want. And then you can also, it automatically places like little ramps on each of those transitions, those divides, and you can stretch and squeeze those as well. So that ramps, like instead of just going from point A to B, it ramps from point A to B. And just playing with that helps you to make some really cool motion, especially when you have a drone shot or a shot that's just constantly moving in one direction and one speed. By doing this ramp, it changes the motion of the camera, and not just like, it's kind of hard to explain, but by making the clip just pan down, which I did with this, it looks like a really smooth pan down, even though it's just, when I recorded it, a steady shot down. But with the speed ramp, it affects the motion of the camera as well. So it just makes it more fluid. It makes it look like a professional camera move. And it's really hard to explain, but it works for pans, like when you just kind of do like a Ken Burns in and out as well. So push-ins, pans, it's a cool thing, and I'm not really doing the best for describing it, but I added Ken Burns push-ins and pull-outs for most of these. So the way you do that is you go to crop, go to Ken Burns, and then it's like, do you want to push in? Do you want to pull out? And you can make that happen. But I am going to, for the sake of this video, not make any changes. So for this drone shot, I was just sitting there static, but I pulled out to make it look like there was a little bit of motion. And I would recommend doing that for almost, most of the shots, unless you want like static shots, like a montage of static stuff. Add a little bit of motion, just a little bit of life to every single clip. I think it helps, especially when you're doing these transitions between the motion shots with the ramps. It's pretty cool. The time lapses were pretty fun. I shot a couple of these with the 85. I believe this is the 85, but in bright sunlight, it made sense to shoot with the 50 because of the ND filter. At night, you can afford to drag the shutter and give realistic or even emphasized motion blur. This is a good example. Like you can see it drags the shutter so that any motion is dragged. Yeah, so that looks good, but it's harder to do in the sun because there's so much light. So having the ND filter allowed me to make these people blurred. And I am using the Sony app for time lapses. I'll place a link, but bug me. I'm thinking about making a tutorial just for that and why I love it. You have to pay for it, but I think it's awesome. Bug me if you want a tutorial for that. I know I'm going back and forth, but the color for these shots, the time lapses specifically, I shot pretty flat. So you can see original versus what I did. Added a lot of contrast, saturation to bring out the color, because why not? Why not? Why not? I actually use a Film Convert Pro and a LUT. Usually I don't mix the two, but I used a Fuji LUT. Not sure where I got it, but I put it at 80%, and you can see the change that just that LUT makes. And then Film Convert pretty much makes you add little things that make it look like film. So you can control the exposure, temperature, film color, curve, added 20 grain, and then a bit of saturation. So you can see that there. For the drone shots, looks pretty mucky, especially when you're up above shallow water. It never seems to look good. I can't exactly remember the profiles using for that drone shot there, but increase the contrast, the saturation, tweak the color so that it was less warm. So I blued it up a little bit, blued it up. And that turned out much better. This is shot handheld with this 50 on the A7S Mark II, and it's a pretty close to contrast, but still video looking image. This image just blew me away with the blue, the white, the green, such beautiful color. But I added Film Convert and that LUT again to bring out more of a warmish color to everything, especially the darks and the greens. A little bit of a aqua-ish aspect to the blues, and just overall contrast. But once again, you can see the vignetting. It's crazy, like so much vignetting with that lens. The f1.2 is absolutely crazy, but you have to have the focus, which is right on the eye of the cat, which is what you want. I did color effects for everything, so you can just see a little bit of color come out in this. Didn't do that much for this one. Yeah, once again, you know, you can see that the A7S Mark II handheld was pretty close to contrast, saturation, what it should look like. I just added a little bit of to it, you know? And I did tweak the settings individually for every single one of these clips. It really takes some time. Oh, and I will say for changing the color and everything for water above, like I just wanted to make this pop as much as possible, the blue. So you'll see a big change here. So very flat, very bleh. Like you gotta really darken everything, the exposure down. I had a different Fuji LUT actually at 75% here. You can see the change right there. So I like to experiment with different LUTs at different opacities, and then I will use Film Convert to just tweak ever so whatever to I need, ever to what I need. This was shot out the window of the plane, and you can see the amount of vignetting is insane. There was actually a lot of work that went on to this, shot very flat, but also the window was a weird thing. A lot of color changing for that, but that vignette, it's also the lens vignette, and then also the window had a vignette. So it was like the perfect storm for that to happen. Ooh, I do want to point out some of these shots though. Overhead, this was like crazy warm. So it was very rainy. In hindsight, I would probably add a little bit of blue. I would slide the temperature left, but I did even change it a little bit. I would do it more if I were to do that again. Once again, with this blue, you really have to change it, darken it to get that contrast, that saturation. And also these GoPro shots. I really only use the GoPro stuff for the snorkeling, which makes sense, but it was pretty flat. It was a little green. I made it much more blue, much darker, more contrasty. As far as the decision to do letterboxing, it's just a thing that I like to do with more cinematic things, but I had the crop marks on my camera the whole time. I like the handheld kind of 50 work where I could just get little snippets with shallow depth of field. But some of the wider shots, especially the drone shots, are much more calculated, mechanical, smooth from point A to B. And then I did use the Zion crane. See, very quick shots for some clips, like this one. It's so quick, but I shot that in a higher frame rate and then slowed it down. So I should be able to show you that real quick here. So Command R. I was able to slow it down to 40% and not have to, and use all of the frames. So if you shoot at a higher frame rate, you can slow it down. And if you're in a 24 frames per second timeline and you shoot 120, you can slow it down to a certain amount that's like 1-for-1 with the frames. So that's how you get good, smooth slow motion. And with the Zion crane, I would recommend tweaking the settings so that when you use the joystick to go up and down, you make it very slow, so that if you just press down, it goes incredibly slow. That way, if you do slow motion, it's such a beautiful motion. And most of the shots that I do with the Zion, especially when I'm doing slow motion, is just like a 2 to 3 second interval. So you want that motion to be very slow, very calculated, because the default is just absolutely insane. So this is a good shot with the cinema lens. And once again, I made it very warm, colorful, yellow, shallow depth of field. I'm actually shooting through another table and glass, and I think shooting through things just helps, adds layers. I think it helps. You don't want to go overboard. And like this shallow depth of field is insane. The 50, it was like a big test. Oh, I do remember this clip because I did a ton. I overexposed this so much, but this is the beauty of color correction and then grading, because to correct it, I brought it down. So I'm gonna get rid of the LUT. Okay, so the LUT just changes the color. This is all of the work that I did to bring down this overexposed shot to something that's more usable. And then it just worked because there was an insane amount of vignetting, but it worked for the shot because you can see it kind of pulling it. It worked for this shot, I really liked it. And then just to change the color, that's beautiful. That was my favorite shot of the entire trip. And it was just some park that we were walking by. But I do want to talk about structure a little bit. So for this part of the song, I'm actually going to bring this down to performance so that my computer don't blow up. You see that pace change? So just hitting each note on the song with like the rapid fire. You'll also notice that there's opening of the cans. It makes that noise, so I use the noise for all of this. But this moment right here just marks like a pace change. So I had to get a clip that was just way different, slow it down. I think it's good to be on the beat, but then you also have to mix it up. You can't cut everything to the beat of the song. And I think it's good if you mix it up. You really don't want to just do the same thing on the beat for the entire song. You really want to mix it up. You want to have different types of shots. You don't want just like 10 Zion crane motion shots all in a row, unless that's what you're going for. You know, there are no rules, but and you'll notice like the music just comes in, especially for this moment. I think it's just way more interesting than if I didn't have any natural sound with it. I like jarring. Nothing, and then like just that fan, just that little burst. I just think that's more fun. contrast in the motion and the pace of the clips. And okay, so my favorite part of the entire film were these night time lapses. And I had shown a couple night things before, but this is like, I wanted to transition into the nightlife. So that's what I'm showing here with them walking towards the drinks. I don't know, I just think that's fun. And I think this works because I did something that I learned, is that if you're going to do a Ken Burns, so you start close in and you pull out, or you push in on a clip throughout just like a continuous amount, do that to the clip in its long form if you're going to shorten it into a time lapse, and then publish that as a clip. Like what you do is you go new compound clip, so that it like bakes it in. That's the clip now. And then when you make any changes for the ramps of the speed, it bakes that Ken Burns into it. So instead of just like the clip speeds up, slows down, then speeds up, and the clip is just zooming in the entire time, the zoom goes with the speed change. So it goes, and you'll see that the best in this moment. Like the clouds are fast, and then you kind of go into it. And I think that's really cool. That's something that I want to do more if I'm going to change the speed ramps and all this stuff. Like having the push-ins and pull-outs work with the speed changes, I think really sells these shots, because it makes it seem like for that moment in the clip, I actually pulled the camera back or brought it in. And you can actually do that. This is what I was talking about before, like, I need to do a whole video on that. I'm getting excited. Yeah, I just went around, shot close, medium, wide, whatever interested me, shot drone shots of everything, the people, the places, the things. I think this was a fun drone shot. Because it's actually hard to be in front. You're always like following with the drone, just because you don't want to go backwards because you might run into something. So whenever you can go on the side or even in front and go backwards with the drone, I think that's a different type of shot that people aren't used to. And then I just like to end with this IG. So anyone watching, it's a call to action. Go follow me on IG. You'll get to see all of this behind the scenes stuff as it's happening. And then when you see the video published on YouTube, you'll be like, I saw that when it happened on Instagram stories. So I think it's a fun way to end videos. So once again, going forward, my advice for myself is to think out what the audience for the video is going to be. So I think, like for EF College, 18 to 28-year-olds are buying these trips and going. So I think it would make sense to follow a group or even a pair, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, who are within this age bracket, target customer, and then build a story about what it's like for them. That's the basic idea of a story that could be used pretty well for a travel film like this. But I'd want to think outside the box, and I'd want to plan all of this out before I even step foot on where I'm going to be shooting. This was a great first travel film, like I'm a professional travel film. It was really fun to be in the country with the team that I was with. They were wonderful. The entire experience was great. And I can't wait to go do the next one. Let me know if you have any other questions about how I made, edited, or planned any of this. I know there are some things that I didn't go over. Probably you're all gonna be like, what picture profile did you shoot? Like, that's what you're always asking, but I'll try to answer specifics in the description. But if you're still watching to this point, this YouTube video, smash that like, leave a comment. Thanks for watching.